Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for another episode of the flagship, the Behind the Steel Curtain flagship podcast. The standard is the standard. You know me. Joining me as always, my co-host Lance Williams out on the West Coast. We're later here on the East Coast. Lance, prime time for you. What's going on?
Hey, everybody. I'm just out here chilling, trying to hit you guys with a new lid every week. If you guys are true Steeler fans and true Pittsburgh sports fans, you understand the significance of the lid that I'm wearing, the We Are Family throwback lid. So that's how I feel. We're family when we do this show. So we're just welcoming you into our humble abodes.
Absolutely. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, you are welcome to join the live chat. We normally have a large group of people there. I'm not sure what it'll be like as it's almost 10 o'clock Eastern time here, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some questions. We're going to take some questions later in the show, but because there's no news, and this time of year, no news is great news for the Pittsburgh Steelers and any other NFL team. What we want to focus on today is we want to look at the offensive side of the football, and we're basically going to give you our predictions for the depth chart. In other words, we are predicting the roster for the upcoming season and just doing it a little different way. We're going to predict, for instance, in the offensive line, how many tackles are they going to keep? How many players on the line overall will they keep? Wide receiver is a highly contested position that we're going to talk about. Again, how many players are they going to keep? And we'll talk about each and every position and eventually have our own little depth chart for this particular episode, which is offense. Next weekend, we'll obviously do the defense. So, Lance, where do you want to start? What position? I'll give you the dibs to call it.
Well, let's start with the quarterback position. Let's go quarterback.
Okay.
Let's go skill positions to the offensive line. And one thing I want to ask you guys, if you listen to the program, if you're on the live chat, Jeff's not good at math. I don't pay attention all the time. So please keep the numbers, tally up the numbers
Yes.
as we go through. I'm going to try to pay attention. I probably won't. Jeff can't add past 25. So, well, he could do 25
Yeah.
reps, like 5 sets of 5.
I
So
can,
beyond
yeah,
like,
that's right. You got to, but maybe if I do it in fitness terms and exercise terms,
yeah,
yeah,
see,
there you go.
there you go. Super sets, like 7
Yeah.
sets of 7,
All right. So I'm doing
49.
a circuit here. I'm doing
Or, with Jeff, also, you count calories well. So, you could do it
That's
that way as
true. That's
well.
true. Absolutely. Okay. Dave Schofield is in the live chase and he's on. He's taking care of it for us. So thank you very much. All right. So let's get started with the quarterbacks. I think it's safe to say now, let's talk about number of players that make the team. I'm saying 3. Lance, do you disagree?
I do not disagree. It will be 3 quarterbacks.
Okay, some teams can only carry 2, but under Mike Tomlin, he typically likes to carry 3. And I think that we're probably going to agree on those 3. Ben Roethlisberger 1, Joshua Dobbs and or Mason Rudolph 2 and 3 respectively, either or, yes or no? Or do you think that for some reason Dobbs or Rudolph would be unseated by I can't forget the guy's name. I keep on forgetting the guy's name that
Let's just call him Dash, because when I'm looking on the depth chart, when you get to 4th, it's Dash. So
Dash.
his name is Dash. So when you're the 4th quarterback, you're just Dash.
Do you think Dash has any chance?
I don't think Dash has no syllables. Because your name has no syllables, I don't think you have any shot in hell of making a roster. When you're just
Delvin
a symbol,
Hodges. Delvin Hodges is
uh,
his name.
the only symbol that makes any sense that was a good symbol was Prince. When
Yeah.
Prince gave up his name and he became the symbol. But in this case, Dash has no syllables. That guy won't make it.
It's Delvin Hodges, and yet, yeah, Dave Schofield himself says Devlin, and that's a joke from the movie with Adam Sandler. But anyways, and didn't Prince, just a quick sidebar? He was when he went to the symbol, he was the artist formerly known as. So I never
Yes, he
understood.
was.
I never
Yeah,
understood. Okay, so you're a symbol, but everyone's gonna call you the artist formerly known as. Therefore, you have a title. You're not just a adder. Anyways,
he's
it's
an
strange.
artist. He was an artist. So, give artists some license. Sometimes what they say doesn't make entire logical sense. So,
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So, a lot of people want to know if Dash has a chance to make the practice squad. I don't. I don't see them keeping a quarterback on the practice squad personally. You agree
No
or
way.
disagree? I don't think
No,
so either.
no, Dash has no chance. Sorry. Sorry. But you guys, that'd be funny, man, if a guy went out there and got a t-shirt and the last name was Dash. Please, somebody do that and send us a picture. I mean, that would be great.
Good Lord, if you have that much money to spend to get a custom jersey with the name Dash on the back,
Please.
Hodges is basically there just to quarterback the second half of the fourth preseason game and say, good luck, kid. Get out there with those crappy offensive linemen. So, now Dave is telling me it actually is Devlin. That's his actual name. I don't
Dash. I
know.
like Dash better. I
Seriously,
like
why are we talking about this? Let's move on to running back. Running backs. Okay, this is a little bit, I think it's very similar. How many people do you see making the depth chart or making the roster at the running back position? I'm going to say 3. Lance?
I'll agree. I'll agree with you. I think it'll be 3.
Okay, so that's 6 total so far. I'm keeping track in my head. Uh, James Conner would be number 1, obviously. Jalen Samuels. You think Benny Snell Jr. or does Ralph Webb sneak up? Because everyone said how Ralph Webb looked great in OTAs and football and shorts. I don't think he does. You disagree or agree?
I agree. Dash squared will not make the roster.
Do you count fullback into the running back position, or do you have that as a complete sidebar?
I think that's a separate position.
Okay, so
Because and I think that because they make the Pro Bowl as a separate position. So Roosevelt
okay.
Nix made the Pro Bowl as a fullback, and Connor made it as a running back. So because of
Right.
that designation, I'll consider them 2 different positions.
All right, so that means that we would have 1 fullback then. We'll both agree that Roosevelt Nix is going to make the team. So that's 4 backs, 3
Correct.
quarterbacks, 7 total. So far, we're at 7. So let's go outside to the wide receiver position. I just want a number overall. We're not talking about flanker, slot, all that stuff, XYZ. How many receivers do you see them keeping in 2019?
I'm gonna go with 5 wide receivers, just because at minimum, if you want to go to 0-0 personnel, which is no running back, no tight end, and play 5 wides, you need at minimum 5 wides. So I think they'll keep 5 wide receivers on the roster. Typically, they do. Most NFL teams at least keep 5, so they'll keep 5 as well.
I think they keep 6, but I want to hear who you have making the roster and then see where you have that one, which player you have getting cut. So go ahead and read off who you think makes this team.
Well, I'm gonna give you my 5: Moncrief, Switzer, Deontay Johnson,
Juju.
Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington. Actually, as I say them out loud, I think they'll keep 6. As I look at it, and Eli Rogers will be the 6th. I think there'll be 6. If there's 5, uh, Deontay Johnson, it would be, I think, a practice squad guy. But I think there'll be 6. I know the 5 that'll make it will be Moncrief, Smith Schuster, Switzer, Washington, and Eli Rogers. I think those 5 will make it. If they carry 6, the guy that's on the bubble will be the rookie and Deontay Johnson.
There's no way that they would ever cut their second pick in the draft. No way.
Yeah, they won't cut him. They won't
No.
cut him.
I think I agree with what Dave Schofield's saying in the live chat right now. He said that there'll be 6 on the roster, 5 active on game days. And the question will be, in my opinion, it's who do you give the helmets to, Rogers or Switzer? I think that's where they're going to go. And I think it's going to come down to
I think
it's going
that's
to
a
come
great
down to
point.
special teams. If Ryan Switzer is your return guy, he's going to get a helmet more often because he's going to be used more. But then again, I don't know. We'll see.
That's a great point by Dave. Ryan Switzer is also more of that Swiss Army knife guy. They lined him up in the backfield a couple of plays as well, uh, as the sidecar in the backfield with Ben Roethlisberger. So in that respect, he does a few more things in the offense than Eli Rogers. But Eli Rogers, in my opinion, is a better wide receiver than Ryan Switzer. Much better after the catch, more shifty. I think he's a better route runner. I think he's a better overall player than Ryan Switzer. He just might not be as flexible as Ryan Switzer. So it's going to be interesting. I think they have a pretty good group there.
For me, I just think it's one of those things where if they were to only keep 5, like you mentioned earlier, they're going to have to make a really tough decision on someone that they're going to basically do something which we talked about on the Steelers preview they never do, and that is admit that they made a mistake in some way, shape, or form. So, for instance, let's say they decide we're going to cut Eli Rogers. They just gave Eli Rogers a brand new 2-year deal. Now, whether or not that deal is lucrative, whether that not that deal has a lot of dead money involved, is not important. What's important right now is that they gave him this contract and then they cut him. He didn't even make the team. Or Ryan Switzer, let's say they cut him, and then you're like, this guy was we traded for him right before the season last year, gave up draft capital for that, and he didn't even make the team this year. They don't like to do that. They don't like to say we made a mistake when we made this move. And so I do think they're going to keep 6, but if they were to just keep 5, I think it'd be really interesting to see who they decide to part ways with. I do have a feeling if they were to make a decision, it would be either Rogers or Switzer. And I would probably lean towards Switzer over Rogers because, like you said, I agree that Rogers is a better receiver, and Deontay Johnson did return kicks in college. And so there's a chance that he could do that. So if he could fill those roles, Switzer could become expendable.
So
But that's
let me
just what
ask
I
you
think.
this, Jeff. Typically, when it comes to roster decisions, especially decisions that are tough, I have the 3 Ps that I came up with years ago. Funny, I forgot them when
Yeah,
I
you
was on
forgot
the
one. I
podcast.
heard that. I
Yeah,
was
I
laughing at
forgot. That was
myself.
pretty funny. I was laughing at myself too as I forgot one. That's why I wrote them down before I said them to you because I was like, man, I can't forget them twice. Here are the 3 Ps: performance, pedigree, and pay. Frame your decision on Switzer or Rogers and Deontay Johnson in terms of the 3 Ps. Now, I think pedigree will protect Deontay Johnson because he was the second person drafted by them this year. So that will protect him. I think pedigree protects him. But speaking of Switzer and Rogers, in terms of the 3 Ps, who has the advantage in your opinion?
um, has the advantage out of those?
Yeah, like performance is production, pedigree is draft,
Right.
or it's trade for. What type of pedigree are they bringing? And pay, last but not least, is their contract. How much are they being paid? Who has the advantage in those 3 categories between those two players? How do you think it'll play out from a
Yes.
roster perspective?
It's tough because, and I was stunned that they gave Eli Rogers that contract because his contract actually was going to toll over to 2019. They could have kept him for really cheap, but they decided for some reason to lock him up. My guess is that they weren't sure what they were going to get in the draft, if they were going to find a guy that would be able to play the Antonio Brown type position. But because Rodgers didn't play that much last year, such a small sample size coming off an ACL tear in 2017, I'm going to say that Switzer has the advantage there because you talked about his versatility. They put him in the backfield. He did make some plays. Roethlisberger started to trust him really early, and don't downplay that. Anyone that's listening, Ben Roethlisberger throws it to players that he trusts. Period. There were times I remember when Drew Archer was wide open down the field and he would not throw him the football because he didn't trust him to make the play. So I'm going to say Switzer. What do you say?
I agree. I think, and I don't know if the relationship with Ben fits neatly into any of these categories. It could be performance, and the performance that he had last year gained a trust with the quarterback. And it never hurts when the franchise quarterback trusts you and is willing to throw the ball in harm's way to get you the football. So, a relationship and a rapport with the quarterback is always a good thing, but Rodgers has a rapport with Ben as well. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this fits because it's not like Rodgers is an unknown commodity to Ben Roethlisberger, and we saw Rodgers come back. I believe it was in the Patriot game, which would be the 4th P, and he performed pretty well in that game and gave the Steeler offense some juice. So this is a camp battle. I think that pays you should pay attention to.
Yeah, and if they do what Dave Schofield mentioned and what we talked about, and that is they keep 6 but only have 5 active on game day, I would not be shocked if Deontay Johnson is the one that doesn't get a helmet early in the season. They typically don't like to throw their receivers out to the Wolves early. They didn't with Juju Smith-Schuster. Um, you
Well,
know, they
think about what you just said in terms of Switzer, in terms of a trust relationship. Is training camp with a new wide receiver enough time to develop that trust between him and the quarterback? Probably not, unless he's like a Randy Moss type prospect that's coming in and is just super dominant. I don't know. So I think that trust relationship goes to your point. I could see what Dave is saying. You put 6 on the roster, Deontay Johnson's deactivated. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I guess there could be some players that are on the roster right now, the 91-man off-season roster, that they could shake it up. You got Griffey and Spencer and stuff like that. I just don't. I just can't see one of them, unless there's an injury, beating another one of those players. But we both agree that we set on 6, right?
Yes, we're going to go with 6. So we got to what?
7, that's
13 players?
13. 13
13.
players. Let's go to tight ends. We're going to go to tight ends, and the depth chart is thin. You have Vance McDonald, number 1. Xavier Grimble, we assume, is number 2. And then Gentry, the rookie from Michigan, is, I assume, number 3 on the chart. I don't even know, is there a dash at this position? And do they keep all 3? I say yes.
You have to keep all 3.
Yeah.
You have to keep all 3 because you're going to play 2 tight end sets. You're going to play 12 personnel, which was their second most popular offensive grouping last year. So you're going to have 2, and you got to have a backup if either one of those guys get hurt. And I could see Zach Gentry getting a helmet on game day for that very reason, that if you have a lot of 12 personnel in your offensive game plan for that week, you got to keep that extra tight end in case one of those guys get hurt. Or also, if you want to go jumbo and run with 3 tight ends in the red zone, you need that other tight end. You could replace that guy with the tackle, but having that extra tight end on the roster on game day in case of injury, I could see happening.
I agree. I think they all make it, and could be, like you said, a game day. A game day inactive could be like for Gentry. He could be inactive on a lot of days because if they're going to carry an extra tackle, if they need a third tight end, they're probably going to bring a tackle out because it's a heavy package. So we'll say
let me give you a caveat to that. Gentry could be a dash as well, where you still want to keep 3, but Gentry is not the guy. You cut him late at the end of training camp, and you pick up a third tight end veteran guy off the waiver wire. They could go that route as well, but you still have 3 tight ends.
Yeah. I like how Ron in the live chat, he labeled the tight end depth chart as McDonald, fumble, end zone, and then Gentry, because Xavier Grimble was known for last year for his inexplicable fumble into the end zone against the Denver Broncos at
Jeff,
Mile High.
Can I rip myself? Can I rip myself, Jeff?
Sure.
For a take that I had on the show when Xavier Grimble fumbled. And I really tried to defend him last year, saying that stuff just happens in football and so on and so forth. But I rewatched that play this year. That was a dumbass football play. That was a dumbass play. He had the entire field to his right. If he just cuts to his inside, he trucks the guy into the end zone. That was a dumbass football play. I just wanted to rip myself for taking that asinine take on the show. That was dumb by Xavier Grimble last year.
Or it would be just one of those Top Gun moments where you just slam on the brakes and he flies right by and you walk into the end zone.
Yes, I mean, anything but creating a collision where the ball could get dislodged. I mean, you have so much room to avoid a collision, but you just want to truck the dude.
Yep.
And got trucked and lost the football. Just not smart.
Yeah, that was just one of the many gaffes that led to the demise of a one-time 7-2-1 football team, finishing 9-6-1. All right, so let's go to the offensive line. Do you want to do this as a total, or do you want to do this by position? For instance, we say, okay, how many tackles are they going to carry? How many guards, centers, etc.? What are your thoughts on how to handle this?
Let's go by position. So let's go left tackle to right tackle.
Okay. I think that if we're talking left tackle, we know the starters. We know.
Yeah, let's go starters. Let's go. Let's pencil in the starters, and then let's just go to backups. But let's go from like left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Let's
Well,
do it in that order.
the tackles, obviously, I think you're Big Al on the left. On the right, I'm assuming Matt Filer is going to win that battle, barring uh, change like Chooks Okorafor coming out and really doing well. Then you have DeCastro and Foster at guard and Pouncey at center.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's
that's
what it'll be. Actually, I want to give a big shout out to Big Al Alejandro Villanueva, who's now a graduate of Carnegie Mellon. So big up to him. We're both fellow alums of Carnegie Mellon University. So big up to
yeah,
Big Al.
absolutely. And he was just taking classes in the off season and got his MBA, I think. So let's go with backups now. So we have 5. That takes our total to what, 18? Just with the
Yeah.
starters?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the backups, I think Okorafor makes it at one tackle spot. I'm gonna say that. See, then you
Hawkins.
get
I think Hawkins will make it.
well, you have a toss up. You have Hawkins, you have Derwin Gray, who is the rookie from Maryland, and don't forget about Zach Banner, who actually made the 53-man roster last year. He was inactive on most game days, but he's a giant of a man. And like I said, he made the team last year. I think it's between those 3. I think they keep 2 tackles, but they're going to be looking for someone that could be versatile. Um,
You got to have that swing guard. Who's going to play that swing guard position? That
well, that's the
that
thing.
guard
So
center.
I say they keep 2 tackles, backup tackles. So
I
now that
agree.
5 turns to 7. I think that they keep 1 interior backup, BJ Finney.
Yes, I agree.
And so that's it. I mean I don't see them
That's eight.
carrying, and that's 8. That's 8 offensive line. I don't think they keep any more than that.
Yeah, because you figure in a game, you drop both tackles. Yeah, I mean, that's probably about right. I can't remember the game. There was a game where they had a rash of offensive lineman injuries, and I'm pretty sure you remember the game where I think they had a tight end lining up. I think they had Heath Miller lining up as tackle at a tackle position. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That vaguely sounds familiar.
That sounds about right. Eight sounds about right.
Okay. And here's the thing with me, like everyone talks about the right tackle battle, which is going to be fun to watch between Banner, Hawkins, Okorafor, and Filer. Don't forget Derwin Gray. Derwin Gray can also play guard. That is really, really important. Gerald Hawkins also practiced at guard during OTAs and minicamp this offseason. Again, really, really important because if you can have a swing tackle that can also play guard and be another backup interior lineman. So let's say something happens to Marquise Pouncey. He has to leave the game to get his hand all wrapped up, whatever. BJ Finney's going to go in. And if it's an extended injury, now you have no backup at guard. But if you have a tackle that can bump down, now all of a sudden you're able to keep that patchwork line together. Yeah, Filer could bump down the guard, but if he's your starting right tackle, you don't want to take him out of that spot. And so if it's Derwin Gray, if it's Gerald Hawkins, whomever it may be, if they can go down to guard on both the left and the right, that's just an added bonus. And I think that's what the Steelers are looking for when it comes to position flexibility. You agree or disagree?
I agree with you 100%. And position flexibility is the term that's most often used, probably even more than what's the term that coach uses all the time?
Obviously.
Exactly. And looking at the lineups in terms of that right tackle position, NFL does a good job of detailing how many plays that the most popular lineup played. And when you look at the most popular lineup played 54 plays last year. And that lineup include Filer. So Filer was involved in, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 most popular lineups that the Steelers had. And when you go down through the rest of the list, particularly because of Ramon Foster's injury, Filer's name shows up on a bunch of different lineups for personnel packages. So I think they feel comfortable with Filer as the starter. I think it would take a lot for someone to unseat him. maybe a draft pick, maybe Hawkins comes in or Chucks comes in because you have that pedigree there because they drafted these guys and they really show. But I mean, I think this line is probably really comfortable with Filer as the starter. They've played a zillion plays together last year. If you look at these personnel lineups, and it just makes sense that Filer is that starter because ultimately on football teams, when it comes to rosters, you want to eliminate unknowns. You want to eliminate as many unknowns as possible, so you have confidence on what a player is going to give you when you put that player out there on the field.
Yeah, and Dave Schofield in the live chat, co-host of mine on the Steelers preview, which airs on Thursday night, he said, they kept 9 last season, and he was telling us that we have enough spots left to keep 9, and he said they'll keep 9 unless they need 26 players on defense. So that'll be interesting. He said his suggestion would be to keep 9 with 8 active, so always having that extra tackle or guard, which this was Zach Banner last year, was always inactive every game day. So that is a possibility as well. But
So if we bump to 9, Jeff, what number are we at? If we bump to 9 offensive linemen, we got 18. We got 9 linemen, 3 wide receivers, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. That's 18. 18 and 7 is 25. So I think we're at 25 on offense. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I think we're at 25.
Okay. So there you go. Let's keep it there, and then we'll be able to look at the defensive side and see, okay, are they going to need more defenders? Or is this are there positions we can revisit on the offensive side and say, well, they could always throw in another player here or there.
We only got room for 25 because you're going to get 3 specialists. You're going to get a place kicker, punter, long snapper.
Right. So Dave said we're at 25 right now with 9 linemen.
Yes. So we'll have 25. We have 25 to play with right now. We got 28 roster spots, but 3 of those guys are specialists. So those are taken already. So we got 25 to play with on the defensive side of football.
Yeah, and so when you look at these position battles, I mean, there are some right tackle, wide receiver, backup running back, backup quarterback. But when it comes to starters, though, there really isn't a lot. There's not a lot of juice for the training camp battles on the offensive side of the football. Because even at wide receiver, I don't think it's a battle of who's going to play. It's where do they fit. It's what does Moncrief do well that can add to the offense. We know what Juju does. What is James Washington able to do well? I don't think this is a case of who's going to play more than the other. I think it's just going to be of how can they best take what they do well and utilize that within their offense. So
let me tease my next show. I said it, looking to the past to predict the future, and just looking at their most popular personnel grouping on the offensive side of football, 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. So the question is, when you look at that, is who are going to be the wide receivers in that mix? I think we all know it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. The question will be, who will be the 2 wide receivers in that mix? Will it be more fluid this year with no Antonio Brown? No, I mean, as we go into training camp, I don't think the number 2 wide receiver position is settled. So that will be the question, I think, largely when you think of this offense next year, because they ran 70% of their total plays, 728 snaps were in 11 personnel. So you need 2 wide receivers to fill that out with Juju Smith-Schuster. So it's going to be an interesting camp to figure out who those 2 players are going to be.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So make sure you check out this. Yeah, I said it. That'll be published on Wednesday. So make sure you check that out on behindthesteelcurtain.com. It'll be a good one. So at this point in time is where we wanted to open up for some questions. It's the off season. There's not a ton of stuff to talk about. So a lot of times answering your questions is a really cool way to just kind of make the show interactive. I really like to do rapid fire. So if you just fire some questions out, we'll answer them quickly, get through as many as we can. But if you're watching live on YouTube and you want to make sure that your question gets answered, then by all means, you can certainly use the super chat feature. I call it the tip jar. And so what it is when you're in the little chat where you can enter your text, on the right, you see a little money sign. You hit that money sign. You can enter any amount of money. It'll highlight your question, and your comment will stay at the top, and we'll see it, and it'll guarantee to be answered. Now, Felicia has already been giving us a tip jar of 10. She put $10 in the tip jar just to announce her presence with authority. She didn't have a question. She just said, "I was late. Here I am," and she's here.
You know
$10.
what? I mean,
Thank
anytime
you,
you say
Felicia.
tip, Jeff, and I'm sure we have some hip hop fans. Every time I hear tip, I think of tip drill, not tip jar. If you know what tip drill is, you've seen that video. That's what
Oh
I
my
think
god.
when I think of tips.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, let's see here. Here we go. First question: will 3 running backs dress out every Sunday?
no, I don't think so.
I say yes. I think they do.
Okay, let's tease that forward. So you got Samuels, right? You got James Conner. And Samuel could play in an 11 personnel package when Connor is getting a blow, presumably, because he's versatile out of the backfield, right? And the Steelers don't really play two running back personnel groupings that much. In fact, they only played 59 plays last year of 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. So, this is Snell he's a special teams guy? Is that why he dresses?
I think they're gonna utilize more backs this year. I think they're gonna feature back. I've said that openly on multiple shows, but I think they're gonna utilize more backs, and therefore I think that Snell's gonna get a helmet, and he'll probably play special teams too.
Huh. So let's say he gets a helmet, right? And he plays for special teams. He's the running back in 11 personnel with no Samuels and no Connor on the field. Like, who snaps is he taking away? Is he taking away Samuels,
I don't
or
think
is he
he's
taking
taking
away?
any. It's if Connor, well, I think Samuels is going to be used in certain. Again, it's kind of like the way I described the wide receivers. It's what do you do best, and how can you help the offense? Maybe they turn him into a goal line back. You
Mhm.
know, short
Well, what
yardage.
happens? See, I don't trust Mike Tomlin. He likes to run the wheels off, so I don't trust it. I'm gonna trust that Mike's gonna manage him like he always has. Break a guy down.
Okay. Linwood Lang says, "Do you think that Sutton Smith, the rookie, will beat out Nix?" No, I do not. Lance, do you think he'll beat out Roosevelt Nix, who just got a contract last offseason?
No,
No, I
he
don't
will
either.
not.
I think they're using him in the fullback situation, kind of like the Patriots will throw a guy into a certain position. They utilize guys in different ways. Maybe it's a gimmick play. Maybe it's certain. I don't know. I think Roosevelt Nix's job is safe. Ron asked, "Do they keep 9 linebackers?" Well, Ron, you're going to have to find out next week when we talk about the defensive side of the football.
Oh, I love that tease,
There
Jeff.
you go. Yeah, I'm
Such a
boy.
tease tonight. Wow, Jeff.
The flagship. What? All right. Do you think Trey Edmonds, running back, will be on the practice squad as insurance in case of injury? Is he practice squad eligible? Is the question. I believe he was activated last year. It comes down to experience. He was with the Saints. Um,
I'm fuzzy on
uh,
that. I'm fuzzy on practice
that's
squad
a
rules.
Dave Schofield question. That's his nerddom.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, you can find running backs if you need one in a pinch. So I don't know if you need to take a practice squad spot for a running back. I mean, you can find those guys. There'll be a bunch of guys in week 6 without jobs that you can bring in.
Yeah. Okay, Flip asks, is it a real competition between Chris Boswell and Matt Wright, the kicker from UCF?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a wait and see. I think it's a wait and see with Boswell. I think it's a competition if he misses kicks, but I think he's been given the chance to play himself out of the position.
Yeah. I don't think it really is because again, if they cut Boswell, unless he's awful in the preseason, talk about, yeah, I'd mentioned it earlier. Talk about throwing up the white flag of surrender, saying, "Man, did we make a huge mistake?" And they don't like to do that. That's not the MO of the organization. Vodka Drinker puts $8 into the tip jar. He said, since Lance went old school with the baseball hat, Who's the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history to throw a no-hitter while tripping on acid? Here's a clue. He was a Pittsburgh Pirate. Do you know who that is? I actually knew it
Yeah,
before someone wrote it in the live chat, but I gotta say I knew it before they
Doc
wrote it
Ellis.
on. Very good. That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Doc
Doc
Ellis.
Ellis. Yeah,
We are family.
he wasn't on that. He wasn't on the We Are Family.
No. It's just
Doc
funny.
had been way gone since then.
Doc Ellis, man, tripping on acid and out there throwing a no hitter, just like it's another day walk in the park.
Hey man, just
Okay.
focus on the guy in the middle.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see here. There's another question I saw somewhere. All right. Okay. Well, hey, the questions kind of dried up. That's fine. We appreciate all those people that did participate in the Q&A session.
Hey,
I
Felicia.
Felicia, thank you very much as always. I do have to say, and if some more questions pop up, we'll get to them. Before we went on live on the air, I said to Lance, "Hey man, have you heard all these details about the Le'Veon Bell stolen jewelry situation?" And he said, "No, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Okay." And I started to kind of explain how he had over $500,000 of jewelry stolen from him in Florida. And he said, "Don't say anything else. This sounds juicy. Save it for the show so you get my live reaction." Okay. So here is here's how we're gonna go on a timeline. And because news
Okay.
filtered its way out as more documents became public. So Le'Veon Bell calls the police to report that he had over $500,000 of jewelry stolen from him in Miami, in his Hollywood home in Florida. And so the police report states that he said that his girlfriends, plural, stole his jewelry.
Let me pause you, Jeff. Let me pause you,
Okay.
Jeff. Le'Veon needs to consult with a OG to give him rules on how to trick. You can't bring them to your house. That's rule number one. Check into the Ritz under an assumed name called you. Hey,
All right, well, let me continue. Let me
okay,
continue.
okay,
Okay.
okay, okay.
So on the police report, he was unable to identify his girlfriends. I'm using air quotes and again emphasizing the S at the end, plural. He didn't know their names.
Okay.
So okay, so
Okay.
immediately when I hear this, I'm thinking he brought girls home, whether it was from the club, whether it was an escort, whatever it was, he brought them home to his home. He did not follow the OG's advice, obviously.
So, the girl's name was Hennessy and the girl's name was Beam,
Or
like
candy.
Candy, Sprinkles, whatever. I mean, yeah, he didn't know their name. It was Sprinkles, Candy. Okay, so we've been there. We've all been. Some of us have been there, where where Sprinkles and tequila are coming home to the house.
Right. So he has the girls over, and in the 911 recording that was made public, Le'Veon Bell is explaining to the 911 operator that when he went to go work out,
Wait,
he
Jeff, is he rapping? Is he rapping in the 911? Is he freestyling?
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, all right, I just
That
want
he basically he left the girls naked in his room.
to nice. So wait a minute. So he got robbed, but the girls are still naked in the room.
He left. He left them in the room. He
So
went to go work out. He brings the girls back.
he's a
They
square, dude. He's a
he
square.
brings the girls back. They play Twister, and then after the Twister game is over, he leaves them and he goes to work out. They wake up. They get
Okay.
dressed. They steal his stuff, and he
All
has
you
no idea how to report it because
for
he doesn't know
all
their
for all you young cats listening to the program. I hate to give you this information, but you might need it. It's called trick and kick, right? Once you trick, then you kick. After you do your tricking, then you do your kicking. You trick and then you kick them out. Trick and kick. You can't invite Hennessy and Chardonnay to the house leave him in your bed butt naked and give him free run. Come on, man. Just hand him the jewelry, like trick,
Okay.
then
Yeah.
kick.
I just want to make a quick sidebar and state that Lance's opinions are his opinions only, and no way a representation of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Jeff Hartman said, editor of website, or SB Nation or Vox Media. Any complaints can be directed strictly to Lance Williams.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm giving y'all the real, but trick and kick.
So that was it, man. So he got over almost $500,000 worth of jewelry stolen. He's never going to see it again. He has no way to identify the girls.
So you know what that means, Jeff? He was high too.
I guess. I
Just riddle me this. If somebody stole $500,000 worth of anything from you, that's a face you would never forget.
yeah, well, I guess. But still, he doesn't, how are you going to identify? I mean, unless you see her, you have no way, you don't know her real name. You don't
He,
know
he,
where she's from or anything.
he knows where he bought her.
Yeah, I don't,
He
okay.
got receipts. I'm sure he got receipts. He knows where
I
he
hadn't
bought
I hadn't talked about this story because it'd been out for most of it had been out for over a week, and we talked the preview, like we talked about this, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. So I was like, we'll do it on Sunday.
He's lying, Jeff. He's clearly not telling everything. He bought the two. He knows where he got them from, and he knows where he went to get them from. He just got played like a herb. He's an idiot. So he's like, come on, Le'Veon, come on, man. That's idiot bozo amateur hour stuff.
George, George did say, he did bring up the fact that Le'Veon Bell did state when he was with Pittsburgh, when he was with LeGarrette Blount, that he was not aware that you could get a DUI for driving while high on, marijuana and stuff like that.
So that leads you to believe he sounds like he's a square dude with money, but doesn't know how to play that game. He needs to call in for instructions to somebody because you can't leave Chardonnay and glitter in your house.
Candy, I like candy. I don't not
Candy and Skittles. Skittles.
Le'Veon, we're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. Okay.
Michelle and Aisha. Mike and Ike. Come on, man. You can't leave assorted goodies around your. At least have the jewelry in the safe. They probably got it for cash too. And he's not saying that.
Well, here's the thing. My question is this. You just signed this lucrative contract. Why are you reporting this stolen? You know it's going to go public. You know people are going to hear about it. You know your reputation, which is already a little sour, is going to take a hit. Why not just say, man, they robbed me, $500,000. Okay, I'll put my first game check towards my new jewelry.
You're exactly right. Like that's hood.
Why call the cops?
Like it's hood justice, right? You just make a couple of calls. Somebody knows who jacked you for the jewelry because people talk. All you got to do is make a couple of calls. They'll find your jewelry. You probably get it back.
Yeah.
He's not a street dude. Like he's not a street dude. That's not a bad thing, but you can't play street games if you're not a street dude. Clearly, do not have candy and margarita come to your house. See, that's why you don't have them come to your house. What are they gonna do? Yeah. Rob the hotel? And what you do is, before you start doing whatever shenanigans, you put the jewelry in the safe.
They're playing Twister. They're just playing Twister. So when you're playing Twister, you take your jewelry off. So yeah, exactly.
Scrabble. I think it was Scrabble.
Yeah, probably.
Dominoes, spades, Parcheesi.
There you go. So we do have one final question here, Lance, before we call it a show. And that is, Claude asked, do you and Lance ever plan on meeting in person? Because if you haven't listened or you didn't know, I've been doing this show for 5 seasons or something with Lance, and we've never met in person. Talks on the phone, text all the time. Clearly, we do the show once a week.
Yeah, I got warrants in Pittsburgh, so I can't come. I got warrants across the
I will say this. The next time that Lance makes his way east, and if it's to Pittsburgh, I'll do the best that I can to get back to where I'm from, where I am right now, Wheeling, West Virginia, and we'll meet up in Washington. Hey, didn't you know you knew a place in Washington, didn't you?
I think
There
I
was
did.
there was a place that you said you went to in college where no oxygen. Wasn't there a
That's
You're
hey,
drawing a blank now?
yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Was it?
You
No,
know,
I think it was the someone called an X-rated
oh yes,
establishment.
yes, that was in Washington, PA though.
That's what I'm saying. I would.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
halfway
yeah, yeah.
between Wheeling and Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Climax.
Two,
Climax.
climax two.
Climax 2. It could be still open. I don't know. Climax.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, it
Seriously.
could. Yeah, I'm not sure. Funny thing is, I have not been to West Virginia. The last time I've been to West Virginia, Jeff, I was in a car accident.
Really?
I
Where in
was like,
West Virginia?
I have no idea. I was like 4 years old in a car, and
Oh, okay. All right. So it
my
wasn't
aunt hit
recently.
a motorcycle guy. I think she might have almost killed the guy. We were coming out of a Wimpy Burger, I think.
Huh.
Wimpy Burgers back in 1974.
Well, I wasn't around for that, but it's not all bad. I
Yeah,
would meet you halfway. But yeah, when he comes east
Climax
again,
1.
we're going to the
Not
original,
2.
man. We're going to the
Original
original.
1, where you can have alcoholic beverages. So like
BTSC
that
meet up at Climax 1, wherever that is.
breakdown offense, personnel groupings, the whole 9 yards. Give you a great show on location.
Oh my gosh. All right, man. Well, hey, good show. Anyone that was watching live on YouTube, appreciate you participating in the live chat and being a part of our community there. Make sure that if you didn't know we had YouTube, you can go to YouTube, search BTSC Steelers Radio, and you can see 3 shows a week. If you want more content than that, go to our audio platforms, anywhere where you get your podcasts, search Behind the Steel Curtain, Steelers. The standard is a standard. You'll find us, subscribe so you don't miss anything, including Lance's Yeah, I Said It show. But we hope you help us continue to rise up the charts. We went from 7th to 6th. We passed the Dallas Cowboys. That's always a good thing. We are the 3rd ranked NFL site in terms of podcasts on the entire network. So
Are we above the Ravens?
well,
Of
yeah.
course. We better be the number 1 AFC North show.
Oh, absolutely, by
I mean,
far. The others aren't even. They aren't. I think there's probably 5 or 6 NFL podcasts in the top 10. We're 3rd. We're trailing. The Eagles are the number 1 overall, and the Chiefs are like 2 or 3. But
yeah,
some of those pods though are kind of like basketball. So basketball's coming off their playoffs, so they're typically going to be. We're in the off season, man. We're still doing great. So we thank everyone for sharing the show and listening and downloading podcasts because it all helps us grow, and it's only going to get better as the season approaches. We'll say it that way. But Lance, why don't you send us out?
Tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
We will see you next week for another episode of The Standard is the Standard.